Right, we are live. So continuing on from yesterday with this single seat couch, settee, chair thing. So this is what we've got. So yesterday we were looking at the seat. So what we now have is just... So is that the seat? Right, so that's the seat. So let's rename this seat.mesh. No, seat._high. So that's the high res. Back_high. Armrest. _high. So seat, back, and armrest. So this just removes the, temporarily at least, the subdivision surface modifier properties. So it cranks up the mesh smoothing, essentially, of the low resolution mesh so that we can see the underlying structure. So let's just also, so that we can see the underlying structure of the I mean, this is very low resolution. The low resolution cage, let's just hide that. Hide. The very low resolution cage that is used to create the seat. And all the elements are essentially structured so that there is a degree of continuity across each of the shapes. So even though they are separate, let's just add a bit of materials to these so that's a high. I don't want that. So new, let's go with armrest. Just add a little bit of color tinting so that we can see back. See the different mesh sections more clearly. So that's material, so that's seat. Whilst we're in, so we're in material preview mode so that we can see colored meshes to make it easier to see each of the meshes whilst we're in edit mode. So we've roughly carried across the mesh structure to all the meshes so that there is a approximate correspondence. And this means that when we assign or apply the modifier, subdivision surface modifier, we're not going to get as many issues with bits missing or disparities across the collection of meshes. And this is, it's not necessarily important per se or critical per se, but when we're doing something like this, we want to try and get the meshes to correspond. So this loop loops its way around the arm, under the chair, and roughly across the seat, which is a completely separate object. And that means that when this mesh is deformed because of the subdivision surface modifier, and this one is deformed because of the subdivision surface modifier, they both deform in a way that is complementary. In other words, when we make these high res, the meshes aren't fighting each other. Like down here at the bottom. Because this is underneath the chair, we don't have to worry about the structure of the mesh. So in this instance, under here, we have the meshes fighting with each other in this area. So we have the seat, no, not seat, the arms and the seat and the back all fighting in this section. So if we wanted to make sure that this, when we eventually create the low resolution mesh for this, because this is a high res for baking, what we want to do is ensure that, let's just zero that out for all of those. We want to ensure, excuse me, you want to ensure, so in this case it's going to be the seat. So let's just hide that for the moment, because we want to keep this shape or this edge flow. So we're going to have to adjust the seat at the bottom to accommodate this area. So seat, edit mode, and that might just be as simple as selecting these and just moving them. But same at the bottom here. Right, so select that and that, edit mode. We want to snap, so selected to active, Shift S, selected to active, so we are selecting the vertex that we want to snap to a target, then Shift S, same again here, Shift S, and then we can use that location position of that. So that's 1, 1, 1, 1. That one is 0, 0, whoops, 0, 0, 0. So what's that one? That's an odd number, so let's go with 7.7 minus 0.7. Okay, so minus 0.7. Whoops. That's X-ray, by the way. So enabling that, we can do it in certain modes, but not all of them. especially if there are materials assigned or images assigned to our materials. 0.7, 0.7, 0.7. What's that one? That is 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, 8.5. So this is useful when we need a bit of precision relative to what we're doing. So that's 8.8. We can select our individual vertices and just using the transform properties in the sidebar, so item, we can select individual vertices and just numerically position them. So what's that one? 9, 9, 9, 9. So we need to do this bottom corner one. So this is a little tricky because so that one goes to that one, and that one goes to that one. Oops. Whoops, undo. And then that one goes to that one. Let's just double check. Right, so we need to pull this way. That vertex into the corner. So what you can do is roughly position things where you, whoops, where you need them to be. But it doesn't matter too much for these inside faces because these won't be used in the low res for baking. All of these will basically be deleted. We wouldn't need these for the low res game mesh. But we might need to sort these out positionally just so that we can get a functional normal map when we bake this. So where's that hide? Unhide. Where's the arm? There it is. Back. Disable two-sided, which is, where is that? Where's global backface? There used to be a global backface, so we have to do it in the material then, I guess. Backface culling. Are we still in? Backface culling, backface culling, backface culling. So now, yeah, right, so there we go. So select, select, edit mode. So select, 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 snap, select, select, snap, select, select, snap. So this is where it can get a little confusing, because we are looking at the inside of the mesh and we are looking at several layers of vertices, because we're looking through the mesh whilst we're in X-ray mode in order to try and figure out where the vertexes are. So that one goes to that one. No, where's that one? Should be a vertex there. There's a vertex there. Right, back. Need to do a be right back sticker thing like this. Right, so so we're looking at the inside of the mesh and through different layers, trying to figure out where everything matches up so that the mesh deforms the way we expect it to. And it can get a little confusing because we are looking at so many layers of mesh. So Control S. And we're not always going to get one-to-one correspondence because so what have we got here then? So where's that? So loop select. So it's there. So that's that one. Right, so we need that one to move to there. So there isn't a loop there. And we need that one to move to there. Or snap to. And then that one to snap to that. So, that's that one. So that one snaps to that. That one snaps to that. So the advantage of working with separate objects and the fact that Blender now, well, it has for a while, allows us to edit multiple meshes at the same time, is that we can snap these together and Blender won't automatically try and merge them. It shouldn't do that, but under certain circumstances it will. And these we can just roughly position because they're not critical to what we're doing. Right, we've got a bit of extra structure on the cushion. Let's just hide the arm. Right, so that is there. So that one, and that one. Those two are okay. So that one and that. Oh, hang on. Which one is it? It's that loop. So that one and that one. That one and that one. Oops, wrong way around. Undo that one to that one. That one to that one. That one to that one. Yeah, so we've got some extra structure on the cushion that's not accounted for with the largest seating, which we can remove. So if we hide the arm, go back to modifiers, add the subdivision. Oops, wrong one. Hide that. So now this entire bottom section is all aligned, basically. It's all matching up. So this will make it less of an issue when we need to, or when we get to the point of baking the normal map. Because what we want to try and avoid for that is overlapping mesh sections. So on the low res, we don't need to, from the mesh structure point of view, we don't have to worry about overlapping meshes, because in the low res we would just merge that out or delete it, or it wouldn't be a problem. The problem with the overlapping meshes is for the bake process, because the meshes overlapping interfere with the way that Blender calculates structure in order for it to convert it into the colors that we need for the normal map. So we've got to avoid as much as possible intersecting or overlapping meshes on our high res, so that it doesn't cause, because what will actually happen is that so let's assume we've got our low res and we're baking the normal map. What will happen is the process will, so we've got our sections, we've got our arm section, the seat, and the back with a partial arm section. So what will happen is the bake process will bake this section first. It'll then move on to this section, and then it'll move on to this section. And if there's any overlap, what that means is that, so let's say bakes these sections in that order, and then it comes to baking this. If there's an overlap between this section and this section, when it bakes this section, whatever is baked from this will be overwritten, or it'll override the previous section that was baked. And that can cause problems for the normal map, because now the normal map for this section is including, or it includes, data from this section, and we want to avoid that. So when we do the high res, we want to try and keep the mesh, relatively speaking, as clean as possible, so that we don't have any overlaps or intersections or interruptions in the structure of the mesh, so that we get a clean bake. But that looks okay, so that's okay now because we've fixed that. So let's re-enable mirror. So that's what we've got. That's our single seat couch settee thing. And again, we don't have to worry about this funkiness under here, because this isn't going to be seen. So when we do the UV map, which we'll do in another stream, once we've got the low res done, when we UV map that, it'll be maybe a section entirely on its own, but it'll be a tiny little area of the UV because this isn't seen, and that would be an optimization, so that this would, being a small section of the UV, that then means that we have larger area of the UV for the rest of the seat. So that's what we've got so far. So the next thing to do would be to, that looks okay. Yeah, the next thing to do then will be to do the low res. So we'll do that on another live stream. We'll call it quits there for today. So again, we're creating a high res, and then we'll create a low res, and we'll bake the structure using Blender's bake system. We'll bake the structure of the high res to the low res so that we create a set of normal maps. We'll be able to do a ambient occlusion. I don't know what else we might need. Might be able to do a diffuse, but we'll see. Right, so that's your lot for today. So thanks for lurking, lurkers, and we shall see you on the next video live stream. Right, bye for now. Yoink.